Trackmania World Championship has kicked off for already a couple of weeks. We had the first group stages being played from the Wildcard stage, so have a quick recap on how things will be going, and we'll give the best insights on to see which teams to also potentially look out for the next couple of runs. So we're going to be going on Wikipedia. We're going to check out on some of what were the top teams that will face up. We're going to go through most of the groups because this weekend there's going to be rest of the group stages played. The next week we'll have the qualification matches that will be played right here. So during the last 2 weeks we had the first 3 groups being played on. Week 1 we had 2 groups being played on. Last week we had just 1. But there's already very crazy stuff happening that can have very crazy implications for next year's competitive circuit. So we're gonna start off in alphabetical order. First group that we had was Group B. So OrcsGP Numalops was the #1 TMCL seed from the last stage. And they looked like favorites in my personal predictions when we talked about it on my stream, that OrcsGP Numalops should be the easy taking. But in the end, as you see, there is a team called Shift that managed to pull a crazy upset, and Shift in the end got first place in Group B. They had a very, very close match against Ici Japon, which is one of the lower seeds from the TMCL. Actually was the last place team in TMCL, or under the previous name of Ascent. And they had a best of 7 that was played in every single match, and it went to all 7 maps in the end. Where it ended off in backflip, and yeah, spoiler, it will not end that well for Ici Japon. And in the end, Shift was a very nice surprise. They actually got into Wildcard from playing enough of matchmaking. They had like 2 top 4s in terms of regionals, just 2 times compared to many other teams that had very lot of consistent performances throughout the year. But Shift got ranked up a lot of points in matchmaking and now beat 2 TMCL teams and qualified themselves out of the groups as a top seed. So what does it really mean as qualifying as top seed? Is basically when the group stage is gonna end, the top seeds from each of the groups will be able to choose their opponents, and then the winner of these matches will be able to move on into the main event, which is gonna be right here where all the rest of the TMGL teams are. So then the winners of each of these qualification matches will be right here. So that's kind of the main thing that was, and Shift is one of the upper seeds, and Shift was not the only upper surprise, as in the lowers, in the end, the TMCL champs were playing against Ici Japon, and it went to 7 maps. It was super close, and but OrcsGP Numalops in the end did go through the match. So Split was basically an MEA team. They were absolutely untrained. They even got a penalty warning for unprepared entry into the tournament, especially because this is a closed event where there were no proper qualifiers except the last chance. The team was invited and they did not respect their invite to the tournament, and due to that they got a small warning and they got absolutely smashed in every single match. So yeah, basically from this group we had Shift, the EU team, both Germans, iMod and Nuprime got through as top seed, and OrcsGP Numalops, Complex and Panda as the #2 seed. So then the next group this was the very first group that was played, or Group F. Hime was the previous Ferrox Industries or Ferrox EU team, very most dominant non-league team in stage 1, consisting of Melio and Matuz, and Kentucky Gamers was Dummy and Cosmos, very young US players. They actually showed that they can do something, especially on the wonkier maps, stuff like backflip. They definitely showed themselves. Raptors was a very solid team, and I would say one of the teams to look out for especially things like qualification matches and potentially the main event. Very solid showing on most maps that they played, especially considering they played against only the 2nd and 3rd best team from this group, and they did not lose a single map. So very solid showing from Raptors, or the French team that is the Energize and Shinimi. And the big surprise was that Hime was very similar situation as right here, as Hime and Numalops are both like the upper seeds when entering groups, because the top seeds could decide on who plays in what group. Well, Hime did not do that well, as you say, that they got upset by Fritas. And now you see right here, Fritas even went to map 7 with Kentucky Gamers. So good showing from Kentucky guys, considering they were, in terms of actual power rankings, they were only like 8 or 9 team in terms of their performances. Fritas is Rask and Maxtrack. And there were also like some top 8 finishes in EU regionals, but definitely had a solid showing and beat Hime. The sad thing is that what happened to Hime is they had a lot of preparation going, and one of the players received a message that something happened to one of their family members, and immediately it really ruined the morale for this tournament. Sadly, after the tournament, the elimination, they At least Melio did post that, we'll see how he will be of continuing, and really hope that he does continue, because these guys were really showing it. But I would say they were one of the most unfortunate teams during the year, because they had a very strong showing. Then they had only 2 losses of entire Stage 2, and especially because they're an open circuit team, they had way more games than, let's say, TMCL or TMGL teams, and they only had 2 losses out of like 20, which is incredible win rate, especially considering they were playing in EU, which is the strongest region in Trackmania. And they had unfortunate loss in Stage 1, which kind of did not allow them to move up to TMCL at the worst time. In Stage 2, they did not play that much. They had like a couple of decent finishes, but they were not as prepared. On top of that, their organization scammed them completely as well. And that's why they're playing under Hime instead of Ferox. And here as well, a lot of preparation for very unfortunate timing for Melio, and they, even on top of that, did not make it out of groups. But instead, Maxtrax and Rask. Rask also has a bit of solid performances in the XP Evo event as well, so solid showing for him, and we'll see how they'll do. They're definitely looking as one of the biggest EU underdogs coming from the group stages into the qualification matches, but we'll see how they'll do, because this was one of the closest groups we had so far. And now this group, Group H, was my favorite group. This group I was looking forward to so much when like the groups were announced, seeded, because there were basically 2 Americas teams, number 1 and number 2 from Americas or NCSA. XLT, which was top 4 in TMCL or top 6 TMCL, basically like mid-range TMCL team, especially from Stage 2. And Molotov, the number 2 team from MEA. And as you see, the interesting results right here. So, to give a bit of a rundown what happened here. So, Air had never ever beaten Damascus in any of the regional events. Damascus was the most dominant team from Americas. They won 5 out of 6 regionals. In the 6th one regional, they just could not be bothered to play, because they have racked up so many points that they were even upper seed of the group. That's why they could select top teams. So Damascus selected Air and Molotov because they had 2 picks possible for group stages, and oh boy, that did bite them back. That's for sure. And XLT was the last pick, so they went as one of the upper seeds as well. So what happened is that the number 2 team, Air, which is Charles from Colombia and Nuts from Chile, the best South America team, they for the first time beat Damascus in the World Championship, and the place where it matters most. They upset them in the last map, and backflip, of course, was the final map. Like, it's actually hilarious. So okay, this was GeForce, but here as well, backflip last map. It's actually hilarious how map 7 ends up being backflip, but yeah. Anyway, and Air got a crazy upset, and they got into upper finals. But as you see here, Molotov was always 2nd place in MEA. They were always overshadowed by a team called Foot, which is right here, which was always the most dominant team in MEA, which is the Middle East and Africa region that also includes Turkey. And they were super overshadowed always. They were always 4-1, 4-0 in every single regional. In the cross-region events, they could not even show themselves because Foot was going there instead. And everyone was looking, since MEA team-wise is the smallest region, they had the least amount of teams out of every single region. And of course, seems like, oh, if they have a decent 1 team, the number 2 team, if they get 4-0, then not be that good. Wrong. Molotov was super prepared. They showed incredible performance here. They stepped up here massively. And not only they beat XLT, that was performing genuinely very well. Huso, who was one of the players, did like very solid times during the matches, was an amazing surprise. This was, I think, the best match so far we have had in the wildcard stage, and was an awesome showing. Of course, they just stomped Air, and in the end, well, a very one-sided matches, as XLT just swept through both America's teams. So what does this do? So every single match in the wildcard, based off the regional placements, how everyone plays against each other, especially the non-league teams, it really gives a lot of implications for next year. What will be their either starting point in the season, or how many potentially slots or details might be, or resources might be allocated to each region. So stuff like this already puts MEA number 2 seed like way above like America's number 1 and 2. If you are from Americas, then a team called Yep Team will be your team to root for, but they're gonna be in a massive group of that. You have Sun, top 3 TMCL team, Easy Dream, also a TMCL team, Trident Esports, one of the best Stage 2 non-league teams from APAC, from New Zealand. Really, really awesome performance. I'm very looking forward to this matchup because I believe this is going to be a super close match if both teams are proper, even if both teams are really, really, really prepared. And one thing that we have noticed here is that pick and ban plays a massive role in this tournament. So every single pick and ban, like Molotov did their research right, and so many EU teams have been underestimating the non-European teams, especially, and Molotov is definitely show them why you should not underestimate them just because they are not from Europe. Those guys can play, and especially since they want to, you know, fight for their region, to have proper opportunities and show them, yo, we are worth it to, you know, put investment in us to develop Trackmania as a global esport. And Molotov definitely showed that and love to see it, especially considering they're the number 2 team, and due to that it puts MEA in a very good position now for next year, especially because this was only their number 2 team. Their number 1 team will be playing right here, but they're in a group together with Puts Tito Paco and Lego, which is Kukumek and BPP, and Kukumek is Vulner and Hydra, which where Hydra was also a top 4 player in TMSIL when TMSIL was still in solos. And so it's just gonna be also interesting group. So every single rest of these groups, so Group A where we have ATX B-Boys, which also another APAC team, Utopia and Gravity versus basically France versus Germany. Group C, Group D, Group E, Group G will all be played this weekend. So it's going to be a stacked weekend this weekend for Trackmania. On top of that, I'm hosting the online qualifiers for the Comic-Con Baltics, which is a LAN event that I'm hosting in Lithuania. We have already 8 players invited. We have Spam, Wizzy, Stufts, or the players from the Airwalkers team, which were the best team from EU regionals from stage 2. So both players from this are taking part. Additionally, Forever, who is the manager for Into the Breach, but a very solid player as well, got second place last year, so that's how he got the invite. Plus we have also 4 Baltic players and 8 slots for the open qualifiers. So if you want to check that out, you can go to the Baltic Club in-game and find Comic-Con Baltics. There's an event and you can take your part this weekend. So that's gonna be, if you want to compete, that's gonna be awesome stuff. But yeah, this weekend we'll have rest of the groups played out. To watch it, it's gonna be done on Trackmania Esports channel. There's gonna be a bunch of also community broadcasts. I have seen so many registered people already trying to apply for the broadcast. So if you want to stream yourself these matches and see what's up and see what's gonna be happening, you can do that on the main Trackmania Discord in a World Tour cast register, and that should be that. And then afterwards, we're gonna, after these groups will end, probably on Monday or Sunday during later the day, there's gonna be the draft being done as well. So we're gonna see the qualification matches for the main event, and then which is gonna be done next week. And then in 2 weeks already, we have the World Championship main event, and this is gonna be an absolute banger. We have the 8 TMGL teams, the best teams from Wildcard. We're already seeing some very crazy upsets, so seeing who these 8 teams will be, it's super up in the air, and it's so awesome to follow this kind of stuff because it will have a lot of implications for next year potentially. So it's gonna be an awesome one. But yeah, anyway, that's gonna be it from me today. Hope this was a very fun chatty stream to kind of go over what had happened in Trackmania so far. If you have any other questions, also make sure to ask in the comments below. That will be it for me today. Thank you all for watching, and see you later. Bye bye.